We are joined now by the commissioner of the ACC, John Swofford. Obviously, so much is going on in college athletics. John, you've been at this since the late 90s as the commissioner. Have you ever gone through a time like this?
No, never, Mike. We've had some challenges along the way, but nothing like this that's comparable to this. This is a new world, and there's no textbook for it. So we're all jumping in together and doing the best we can with it.
So, given that there's no textbook, there's no history to lean on, what has been the best way that you've been able to collect information here, knowing that the unknown is still a couple of months out there from having to make that decision on not just football, but all the fall sports on the campuses?
Mike, I think the key for us has been to establish communication on a regular basis with all the good people affected by this in intercollegiate athletics, and that includes our presidents, our athletic directors, of course, our coaches, our SWAs, from an internal standpoint, and then externally. Certainly, I'm on a call every day with my commissioner colleagues in the A5. And the five of us just got off that call, actually, but we talk every day so that we're sharing information and best practices. And we've established a medical advisory committee within the ACC, as I know that my colleague conferences have done the same. To benefit from science and from the tremendous medical personalities that we have across the board in our various conferences, and we're blessed in the ACC to have some of the best medical schools in the country, and that certainly is coming in handy as well. But I think that regular and almost constant communication among our various constituencies at the conference level has been critical to our ability to move forward and to keep everybody pretty much on the same page, although there are some institutional differences, and that's to be expected. But it's one of the great things about being a part of a conference. You can learn so much from each other.
And that's been something that maybe folks don't realize. There's been a lot of information shared, not just sports-wise in terms of athletics, but also academics and trying to set up some protocols for getting students back on campuses. And the conferences are working together in many regards to share that information. You mentioned the five and the conversations. That's you, the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. So those commissioners really, right. You're one of the five, have a lot of the say if we're going to have a football season all together. Are you unified? Are you all going to go if everyone's going to go? Or is there a chance that we could see a bifurcated season where some go and some don't?
I think you could. I wouldn't make any predictions yet because I think it's just too soon to know. But if some schools are unable to play and make that decision, I don't think that keeps everybody from playing. So I think everything is still on the table at this point. It's one of the tough things for decision makers is that you're used to making decisions and moving on. And in this case, it's really premature to make the decisions that ultimately will need to be made. And that's why the sharing of information is so critical. And we have to keep the various scenarios that could happen on the table going forward. So, when we can start narrowing those scenarios, it will be very helpful to all of us. And we're getting there, and we will get there. And some progress is being made with decisions about opening campuses in the fall, because I think it starts with that. We are intercollegiate athletics. Our athletes are students. And so what happens institutionally needs to happen first, and then we follow in a sense, hopefully with the right protocols and protection for our student athletes, fans, everybody else that will be involved when we start playing again. And that day will come. We just hope it's at the normal time.
Sounded like you said there could be a scenario where some conferences do play, some don't. How about within your league? What if some schools, Clemson or let's say North Carolina, can by state, but you go to the north and Boston College in Massachusetts, or Syracuse in New York, or Notre Dame in Indiana, when it's the other sports not football related, if they have other restrictions that say right now we can't go, what do you do as a league in terms of your fall sports if some can and some can't?
Well, I think it's likely that if most can play, we haven't made this decision yet, Mike. So I'm giving you a
Hmm.
personal opinion at this point, but I would
Sure.
think that if half or more of our schools can play and want to play, that we would make every effort to do that. You hope you're not in that situation within your league. You hope that all are on the same page. But the way all of this has worked, and with we're in 10 different states, so we could have states that prohibit uh, competition, for instance, and
Hmm.
others that do, and every league is in the same boat in regard to that. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But right now, my best read on our league is that people are generally very unified in their approach to this. But again, a lot can happen over the next few months, and so we'll see how that plays out. But we want to be unified. I hope we can be unified when the time comes.
What's the latest on fans and any guidance on if it'll be completely empty or maybe some fans in the stands, given that we are months away from having a final answer on this?
Uh, it's hard. Again, we're planning for each of those scenarios. No fans,
Hmm.
partial fans. Even full stadiums. I'm not predicting a full stadium.
Right.
We just have to go into this in a way that makes sense and is safe, or as safe as it can be in today's world, uh, for not only the student athletes that are competing and all of those around them on a daily basis and during competition, but also those who may come into the stadium. And Mike, I think one of the
Mm.
things that can help intercollegiate athletics is that during the course of the summer before we play, I think we'll learn some things from the professional leagues
Yes.
uh, who will start playing before we do, and that can be fortuitous for intercollegiate athletics because it's hard to know what's going to work and work well and what's not going to work so well. And consequently, we'll have our eye very closely on what goes on in professional sports before we are up and hopefully playing in the fall. And even though our game is different, I'm not comparing
Hmm.
college football, for instance, to the NFL or any of our other sports. Uh, but we can learn a great deal from them. We're a part of an academic community, uh, and we're part of students and faculty and college towns and communities that very much are there because of some of the tremendous universities that we have, and the two play off of each other. So um,
Right.
it's a little different, not a little different. It's a great deal different, really, than
It is.
having 30 some teams across the country, such as a pro league does. So, but there are a lot of similarities as well.
Last question. I could ask you so much more about this topic, but I think we need to address it. Could there be a significant shift in the structure of intercollegiate athletics based on the financial impact that COVID 19 is going to have, not just on the gate, not just on campuses, but on the entirety of these academic institutions that are going to see a very different world as we go to 2021 and beyond?
Could be, yes. We'll have to wait and see on that. Intercollegiate athletics and higher education both are tremendously resilient and have been over the years, and I think will be going forward. But anytime there's a new normal, so to speak, and I think there will be a new normal to some extent, just as there was after 9/11, for instance. The way things are done traveling are very different today than they were before 9/11. And I suspect there'll be certainly some things that are quite different in the sports world and throughout society after this pandemic. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of resiliency in intercollegiate athletics and our various conferences and our universities, as I said. But there'll be different ways of doing things. How far-reaching that will be in terms of how intercollegiate athletics are played and conducted, we'll just have to wait and see.
And you're in a very unique space because the ACC membership, you've got 6 schools that are private schools in Wake and Duke and Syracuse and BC and Notre Dame and Miami. So it's a whole different mix that John Swofford has to balance and has been doing as the commissioner of the ACC since 1997. Good to catch up with you, friend. It's been too long. Best to you and your family, and we hope we see sports, not just football, but all the fall ACC sports once we get to late August and September. Thanks for your time, John.
Thank you, Mike. Great to be with you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.